Welcome back, magic lovers. It's Tracy Partridge-Johnson back again with another episode from the Golden Telescope, book 1 in my Jack and the Magic Hatmaker fantasy fiction series. So I hope you're doing great. Hope you had an awesome weekend and you're getting ready for the holiday, getting closer and closer. I did finally at least put up the tree, so there's that. I'm happy to report that at least we've got the tree up. I still have to dig into the baking. So, what are your favorite holiday cookies? Do you guys bake cookies? What do you bake for the holidays? What's your favorite goodie? We make some fun Swedish. I make some fun Swedish cookies and goodies since my mother was Swedish, of Swedish ancestry anyhow. So I'll be making some of those here pretty soon to ship off to friends and loved ones and to enjoy around our house. So anyhow, moving right along to the story, last time I did something that I haven't done before now, or before this last episode, episode 12, I stopped in the middle of chapter. And so I'm going to pick up where we left off last time. I stopped in the middle of chapter 22, Realization, Dublin, Ireland, present day. And we were in the middle of a conversation with Jack and Arthur Loyal, the McPaden family butler. And Arthur had just revealed that he has been in touch with Jack's older brother, Ethan. So let's pick up from where we left off last time. And if you haven't listened to the first part of this chapter, go on back to episode 12 and listen to that before you move on ahead with this chapter so you'll know what we're talking about. All right, here we go. Jack's eyes fell to the cold wooden floor. He shook his head. He missed his brother and sister just as much as he missed his parents. Yes, I know where Ethan is, Arthur said slowly. Jack looked up at the butler, a deep frown creasing his brow. You do? Arthur nodded gently, and suddenly Jack was sitting up straight. His eyes lit up with intense interest. He had lost one family member today, but maybe he could get one back. Oh my gosh, Jack exclaimed. Tell me, where is he? He rushed to where Arthur sat and flopped down in the chair beside him, an anxious look on his face. Well, and Arthur's enthusiasm diminished a bit. It's kind of a sad story, Master Jack, but I'll tell you anyhow. You see, your grandfather had me collect DNA samples from all three of you when you were small, he started, as a precautionary measure. Bart's dad told me that my dad didn't want to have anything to do with the magic world, Jack interjected. Yes, exactly, Arthur said. Sir Edward knew that your dad resented him for Lady Lydia's disappearance, and he wanted to respect Ross's wishes. So your grandfather let your dad think that he was completely removed from our lives. Arthur glanced sideways at Jack with a little grin. But the truth is, Sir Edward had me keeping an eye on all of you the whole time. In secret, of course. Wow, really? Yes, really, Arthur replied. He had me sneak into your nursery one night and snip a lock of hair from each of you, which he then used to craft the magical hats we used to bring you back here. There is one for each of you 3 children, Arthur finished. Jack sat back, a look of dismay on his face. Anyhow, Arthur continued, since Ethan is the oldest, his abilities manifest first. So your grandfather sent me on a mission to retrieve your brother, just as I did to collect you. His voice trailed off. Long story short, it didn't go as planned. What do you mean? What happened? Jack asked, concern creeping up on him again. Well, I did materialize into his bedroom one afternoon, just as I materialized into your room. But he wasn't alone when I arrived. He was with his Uncle Thaddeus, who was talking to Ethan about joining forces with a magical cabal. I believe the members include your aunts, Inez and Clara. Arthur heaved a sigh and rolled his eyes. What? Jack sat forward, a new intensity in his expression. The ones who killed Grandpa? Yes, the very same, Arthur said. But I don't believe your brother knows about that fact, Arthur finished. So what happened when you appeared in his room? Well, I was able to listen in on the entire exchange between Ethan and your uncle, and that is what worried me. I considered not revealing myself at all after seeing that Ethan may be interested in aligning with them. He paused. But, Jack probed. But, Arthur resumed, Ethan knew I was there. He raised his eyebrows for emphasis. He waited until Thaddeus left the room before compelling me to reveal myself to him. Arthur stopped and looked at Jack for his reaction to this news. Jack tilted his head to the side. Ethan knew you were there the whole time? Yes, but after I explained who I was and showed that same photo to him, he felt threatened and began yelling for his dad. I had no choice but to leave. Oh, Jack rubbed his eyes and stood up, pacing the floor. Yes, so you can imagine why I was apprehensive when I showed up in your room, Arthur resumed the story. But I could tell immediately that you were in danger and needed my help. So that is why I decided to take the risk and show myself to you. This is just crazy, Jack said. So where is Ethan now? I'm not sure, Master Jack, Arthur began. I presume he is in Europe with your uncle and aunt, since that is where they were talking about going. Jack wandered over to the large globe in the middle of the room and was mindlessly caressing the railing surrounding the thing. His eyes scanned over the continent of Europe. It was so big. What now? Chapter 23, Grandma Lydia. Dublin, Ireland, present day. Where does this lead? Jack asked, and he began to descend the steps. Oh, those stairs lead down to the house. This room is the pinnacle of the building. Shall we head down then? Arthur grabbed both hats and briskly moved toward the stairs. At the bottom, Jack found a walnut door with an ornate golden handle. Wow, fancy, Jack muttered as he grasped the handle and turned. Jack's jaw dropped at the splendor that awaited him on the other side of the door. Where the upper room had been sparse, nearly vacant, in fact, this hallway was beautifully appointed. Plush carpets covered the floor. Colorful tapestries and oil paintings hung on the walls, ornately carved crown moldings in the same rich walnut as the door accented the ceiling, and even the light fixtures exuded an ambience of warm yet gracious elegance. It's a bit much to take in, isn't it? Arthur asked, gazing fondly at the sight before them. I've lived in this home for more than half my life, and I am still in awe of its beauty." He walked ahead of Jack and passed several rooms before stopping to retrieve a large keychain from his jacket pocket. Unlocking the door in front of him and opening it, he turned to Jack. "Your accommodations for the evening, Master Jack." He said it with a sly little grin, and Jack dashed the rest of the way down the hall to meet him. For the second time, Jack's jaw dropped as he slowly stepped over the threshold and into the room. After his dank basement bedroom at the O'Brien home, this room felt fit for a king. Jack walked past Arthur and into the room, which was dominated by an enormous four-poster bed. He turned around to the butler for permission. "Can I?" he asked, gesturing to the bed. "Please do, Master Jack. This is your room," he said. Jack grinned and jumped, flopping down in the middle of the bed. He bounced a few times on the soft mattress, allowing himself a moment to revel in luxury. "Would you like to retire for the evening? Or could I interest you in supper and a tour?" Arthur stood expectant in the doorway. Jack's stomach grumbled loudly at the mention of sustenance. It hadn't been that long since the burgers, but a lot had happened since then, and the expenditure of nervous energy left him ravenous. "Food sounds fantastic," he said, jumping off the bed. "Maybe show me where the kitchen is, or whatever?" "Of course, Master Jack. You will have a chance to see quite a lot of the main part of the house on our way down to the kitchens." Arthur said, then, "No rush, of course. Take as long as you'd like." "Oh, I'm definitely ready to go now. Lead the way, Sir Arthur," Jack said enthusiastically. And the butler smirked slightly. "Pardon, Master Jack, but I'm not a knight, and only knights have earned the right to be called Sir. Your grandfather, Sir Edward, was knighted by the Queen many years ago, and that is why I address him as Sir Edward. You may simply call me Arthur, or if you prefer, sometimes your grandfather liked to call me Artie." He smiled and turned toward the massive open staircase just beyond the door. "Good to know." Jack paused, then added, "Artie?" Jack was following the older gentleman, trying to take in all the incredible artwork hanging on the walls as they went. The butler made sure to pause and tell him the name of the ancestor depicted in each painting, which Jack found fascinating. But when they came to the bottom of the staircase and turned the corner, Jack stopped abruptly, frozen in his footsteps. His mouth was hanging open, and he was beginning to hyperventilate. Arthur, who had paused in front of another painting, noticed that Jack was transfixed, staring up at what was the largest of the portraits he had seen so far. "Master Jack, what is it? Are you all right?" Jack held up his index finger to indicate that he needed a moment, then reached into his pants pocket and retrieved his inhaler. After dispensing the medicine and taking a moment to compose himself, Jack, still staring up at the painting, asked, "Who is that?" "Why, that's your dear grandmother, Lydia, Master Jack," he said, a sadness in his eyes as he turned to look up at the beautiful, fair-skinned brunette portrayed in the painting. "Why do you ask about her?" "Because I know her," Jack said. Arthur blinked slowly. "What do you mean you know her, Master Jack? Your grandmother has been missing ever since your dad was 12 years old." He shook his head. "No, you must be mistaken." "I am not mistaken," Jack said, turning to the butler with a new sense of resolve in his voice. "That's her. Absolutely. I've seen her twice now. Through this stupid telescope that my friend Bart showed me." Jack shifted uncomfortably as Arthur continued to stare down at him. A distant look had developed behind his eyes, and he swayed slightly on his feet. Jack bounded forward, taking the man by the arm, suddenly concerned for his welfare. "Artie, are you all right?" Arthur swallowed, nodding slowly. "I think you had better tell me all the details, Master Jack. Let's sit in the library for a bit." He signaled down the hallway, and Jack helped support the older gentleman as they rounded the corner to the library. Sitting down on the love seat together, Arthur looked at Jack. "Now, if you don't mind, would you please fill me in about these sightings you say you've had?" "Well," Jack started slowly, "you say she's my grandma?" He looked questioningly at Arthur. "Yes, that painting is of your grandmother Lydia. She is your grandfather Edward's wife and your father's mother." "Wow." Jack had to take a minute to let that fact sink in before he finally looked back at the butler. "Okay, so just this morning my best friend Bart showed me this strange telescope that his dad, Bill, found in the tunnels under his store. And when I touched it, it was like I was transported onto the deck of a ship. And she was there on that ship. The first time I saw her, I could only see her standing a few feet away from me, and she didn't say anything. But the second time, well, she was looking right into my face, and she even called me by name. She said that I had to get out of there, and that I was in terrible danger. That's what set off this whole series of events," he finished and looked at the butler. Arthur was visibly shaken and did not speak. "Artie?" Jack touched the gentleman's arm. Arthur's eyes finally met Jack's, and he pressed his lips into a thin line. "Well, Master Jack, it's just that I don't know how this could be possible. Your grandmother has been gone for 24 years, and your grandfather tried and tried all those years to get her back. So it's just very strange that you've connected with her. How did she look?" This question brought a new enthusiasm to his voice and a light to his face. "She looked pretty much just like she looks in that picture on the wall," Jack said. "Amazing," Arthur whispered. "You see, Master Jack, that would mean your grandmother hasn't aged in all this time. Do you suppose that message could have been a recording? That may explain why." "Well, I guess it could have been a recording. I hadn't even considered that before now," Jack said. "But no, I don't think so, because, well, if it was a recording, how would she know to call me by name and tell me that I'm in danger?" he asked. Good point, my boy, good point." And Arthur continued to think, stroking his chin. He got up then and walked over to the walnut sideboard to pour himself a glass of an amber-colored liquid. "I hope you don't mind, Master Jack." And he lifted the cut crystal glass in Jack's direction. "Would you like something from the kitchens? With all this excitement, I forgot that's where we were headed." "Actually, I am really hungry. Maybe we could talk over a sandwich or something," Jack suggested, and he got up and walked to where the butler was standing. Arthur dipped his head graciously as he sat the decanter back down on the silver tray and turned to walk out the doors when he caught himself. "Oh, wait a minute," he said. "Let me show you something first." And he opened the top left drawer to remove the plastic envelope containing Sir Edward's obituary. This is the newspaper clipping of your father's obituary. That's what he looked like shortly before your Aunt Inez took him through that portal." He handed the pouch to Jack. Jack took the envelope from Arthur and carefully removed its contents, taking a few minutes to read over the article before gently replacing it and then handing it back to Arthur. "Your grandmother Lydia and Sir Edward are the same age, so she should look comparable to him in age currently," he said, replacing the envelope in the drawer and closing it. Jack shook his head. She still looked pretty youngish, you know, for a grown woman and all," he finished. They turned then and walked together out of the library, across the foyer, through the sitting and dining rooms, until they came to the heavy swinging door leading to the kitchens. Once inside, Jack pulled up a bar stool at the large stainless steel island dominating the middle of the room and sat down while Arthur collected a crusty loaf of French bread and some deli meat and cheeses and condiments, then began making sandwiches for the two of them. "So, about this telescope," he started. "You say your friend's dad found it in a tunnel beneath his hobby shop?" "Yes, that's what Bart told me," Jack replied. "And that's in Portland, you say? Who is this friend, if you don't mind my asking?" Arthur asked. "Bart. His dad, Bill, owns Flanagan's hobby shop in downtown Portland. It's our favorite hangout. Bart and I work there most days after school to..." Arthur abruptly stopped spreading mustard on the bread and stared at Jack. "Did I hear you correctly? Bill Flanagan is your best friend's father?" Arthur asked. Jack looked suspiciously at the older man, crunching his eyebrows together before slowly responding. "Yes, that's what I said. Why do you ask? Does that mean something to you?" "Well, either this is an utter and complete coincidence, or something truly strange is going on here. Because, well, your father's childhood best friend was a boy named Bill Flanagan." And that's where I'm going to stop for today. Our next chapter, chapter 24, is called Bart and Bill, and it takes place in Portland, Oregon, present day. And I will read that for you on Wednesday. So I hope you have enjoyed this reading from The Golden Telescope. If you have, please take a moment to give me a thumbs up and share this with your friends and family who you think might enjoy this kind of entertainment, this kind of reading or story. And subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And be sure to ding the little bell so that you receive notifications every time I upload new content, which I do Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 3 times a week. Until next time, I hope you have a great evening, a great couple of days, and I will see you soon.